Hey everyone, and welcome to Comedians on Technology, People, and Drugs. I'm your host, Sam Joseph, and today we're very lucky to have comedian Joel Walker on the podcast. Hey Joel, it's really great to have you with us. Thanks so much for sharing your time.
Oh, you're so welcome. Yeah, for the benefit of the listener, I'm pretty deep in a cold at the moment, but it shouldn't affect my capacity for higher thinking and sort of that sort of thing. I was trying to think of another thing to say after higher thinking, rule of three, but
Hmm.
I guess I guess my capacity for higher thinking maybe has been affected. But welcome, and thanks so much for having me, Sam.
Oh, it's wonderful, and well, particularly thanks so much for struggling on through that cold. We did have to cancel one because I was ill several weeks ago. But you're younger and fitter, and I mean I'm terrible.
Well,
It's
yeah, you eat greens.
do I eat beans? Sorry.
No, your greens.
Yeah, I do try and eat healthily. I've always been a bit partial to. I mean, I think some people don't suffer so heavily from. I'm trying to think of what it's not ENT decongestant. Like see, my capacity for high thinking just compromised generally by I don't know, slight headache. There's a thing that would describe the kind of like colds and coughs and flus and things. The collective noun for them is respiratory illnesses. Shall we call them? I don't know.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
they
I mean,
they say.
I tend to. I mean, I think now I've passed 50. I think, and this is what my grandmother always said, is that if you there are 100 types of cold virus coating because apparently it's all like the same virus underneath, but it like the way the kind of rhinoviruses trick you
Right.
is like they have a slightly different coating, and but once you've had 100 or so of them, and if you have two a year every year, and you're like past 50, you get to a point where your body that sort of basic common or garden cold is
Right.
basically handled. But how are you getting sick a couple of times a year with a cold and
I
the flu?
mean, I work with kids, so I'm getting bombarded.
Yeah,
I'm I'm under fire. I think I might get there a bit quicker, you know.
quite possibly.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
but
but
what's the frequency? Is it three or four times a year, or how frequently do you think you're?
I mean, honestly, during the winter, sometimes it feels like it's the whole time. I'm
Bloody
just sick.
hell.
Oh. But sometimes last year it was better. I
Mm.
feel like I got longer in before I got something nasty. But this year I've been hit
Mm.
with this quite early on.
Mm.
Um, guess it's November now, but normally I'd hope to wait at least a little bit longer
Mm.
into the sort of winter term or
Right.
the autumn before.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
It's an. I mean, for me, I categorize it. I mean, the listeners, I'm sure, will be riveted in two types. There's one where you kind of have a scratchy throat, and it's kind of and you can kind of basically carry on.
yeah,
Those are sort of unpleasant, but you can still basically function. And then other ones where you're just like you kind of like collapse for some number of days, and
yeah. I don't
yeah,
normally get those. Normally I can sort of like plow through and not really notice it, and it's just,
okay.
life is more unpleasant. But so this is quite rare. So this one I
Uh,
literally had to lie down yesterday. I don't
yeah,
normally have to lie down. I like
okay,
lying down, but
sure. Yeah, I mean,
but
it's yeah. Yeah, I think it's still the case for me that roughly twice a year I will have 2 days that will I'll be like I can't move. But this is I think I might have a weakness for these respiratory. I always got tonsillitis when I was little. I got very large tonsils. I think that's part of the problem. But the listeners are screaming and shouting and stamping their teeth because what they really want to hear is not our detailed analysis necessarily of colds and flus, but your comedy origin story. I mean, was it that you found at an early age that your skin turned into sort of a metal and you could deflect bullets and you developed a Russian accent, or how did that comedy journey all start off?
um well, I got this sort of mutant cold that actually made me uh, spew jokes rather than phlegm.
Ah.
Um, no, not really. That's of course my silly little joke there. I think it was a sort of a mixture of things. I grew up listening, not listening, but watching. Live at the Apollo was on the
Right.
telly,
Yes.
um, and the panel shows like
Mm.
Have I Got News for You? And my
Yes.
parents listened to Radio 4, so my mum listened to Radio 4. Um, so the way that those comedians of that era
Right.
spoke and put things, it was all the what would you what are their names? David Mitchell and like
Right.
Marcus Brigstock
Hmm.
and Joe Brand was always on, and
Hmm.
the way that they spoke and put things into words and that sort of thing, I guess it's just burned into my brain. So
Mm.
then I also think I might have sort of always been doing stand up in my head to myself.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think it's always just been going on in the background
Yeah.
lightly. And then a couple of years ago, well, nearly 3 years ago now, I was watching Seinfeld as well. And in the early episodes, he's always doing
Yes.
a bit at the beginning of the episode or throughout. You see clips of him doing
Yeah,
stand
you
up,
do.
and he
Yeah,
just makes it look so tremendously easy and fun.
he does.
Um, and I had been doing some writing, and
Mm.
I realized I had sort of been writing for stand up. So all of those things kind of came together, and I thought it was time to give it a go.
Oh, wow.
But it was just sort of out of the blue as well. It was just sort of like, right, I'm going to do this now.
Really?
I
Wow.
hadn't I hadn't thought ever that it wasn't like, oh, I'll never do that. It was more sort of I just hadn't thought about doing it. And then
Right.
one day I was like, oh, time to give it a go.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, it's sort of been there as, a thing. Like obviously there are people doing skiing and there are people doing, I don't know, what like playing competitive poker and so on. You were aware of it, and I know it was something that you were, we might all enjoy the Olympics, but we don't necessarily start doing the hurdles or anything. But yes, you'd had this in the back, and so yeah, about 3 years ago, you were just like, yeah, I guess something was ticking over in your mind, and you thought, oh, that'd be fun to try. Well, the thing that you're saying there about seeing the Seinfeld, and I was rewatching like the first series of Seinfeld not so long as I remember
Yeah.
exactly what you're talking about, which is yeah, he kind of you sort of see him doing his thing, and it's like
Yeah.
he's saying clever things, people are laughing. Yeah, what could go wrong?
Yeah, I think if you were to think of it like the First World War,
Mm.
Seinfeld would be like the Archduke Franz Ferdinand's assassination.
Hmm.
Um, but of course, up to that point, there were a number of contributing factors that had been, close to the boiling point.
Yeah, yeah. Well, indeed, as you say, all of this. I mean, I think it's a big change in some way. Obviously, I'm a bit older, and when I was growing up, I mean, I was watching quite a lot of, these double acts like Little and Large and Cannon and Ball and so on the television, and then I was very much enjoying, Have I Got News for You, Mock the Week, and so on. But I think in particular with Mock the Week, they have their like stand up challenge, and stand up has gone from being sort of a bit of an odd kind of working men's clubs kind of thing to being quite mainstream. And I
Mm,
think you've probably grown up with that in the background. And then
yeah.
so you were sort of like you were coming up with jokes in your head and so on. And then given that you then decided it was time to give this a try, what were the next steps? How did you find a place to get your first hit?
I Googled comedy nights in London or open mics in London,
Oh yeah.
and I went to see a few.
Oh, did you? Yeah.
Yeah. I went to watch a few, and I think that was a good thing to do. I think you should go and watch some before you try it.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, I think I went to see a few. I went to see Giggle, which
Oh yeah.
it was very early. Have you ever been to Giggle or heard of Giggle? Gigl.
GIGL. I don't know that I have.
There's a banana on their logo. Now it's very difficult to get on. It's very, very good people on, but it was just starting and it was kind of more of an open mic sort
Okay.
of thing
Yeah.
at the time. But now they've had Fern Brady at Giggle, I
Right.
think.
Right.
Uh, and so I saw that, and then I saw a couple of G&Bs, or maybe just one,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, that I went to watch. I feel like I think I went to We Are Funny Project.
Oh
Do you
yeah.
ever go to that store? Yeah. So I got sort of um, a good spread of different types of
Mm.
night that I watched,
Mm.
and then I applied to a few of them.
Mm.
Uh, I applied to G&B and We Are Funny. I got spots at those.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I remember Cuddles for Troubles as well.
Oh
Have
yeah.
you ever been? It's
I
called
have.
Corner.
Yes. Yes. That's Sam. I forget his
Yeah,
surname, but yeah,
yeah.
Sam's
And
night in South
that was
London.
crazy because it sounds like it's on a Friday, an open mic on a Friday. When I first went, I was like, this is the pinnacle
Oh
of
yeah.
yeah. And um, I remember I emailed him and he was like, I wouldn't recommend doing this as one of your first gigs. I'd recommend giving it a little while. Um,
Mm. Mm.
and and yeah, I thought, oh, okay, all right then, yeah, all right. So I remember when I then eventually got a spot there, I thought, right, I'd done like 10
Right.
gigs, but I was like, made it now.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. Well, wonderfully considered approach. I think all the other, well, the two big podcast influences on me are of course comedians podcast by Stuart Goldsmith and Pete Holmes. You made it weird, and I think in
Oh, great. Yeah.
both of them they talk about the value of going and seeing open mics before you get up, and often the feeling that they say is like you sort of see, oh, actually the quality here is quite low. I could manage that quality, couldn't I? But then I think it's still, it can be quite daunting stepping on the stage for the first time. I mean, had you had any history of performing? How was that first gig? Was it did you really have to steel yourself to get up there?
Uh, well, there's like two sides of that answer because one, I sort of cheated because I went to acting school,
Ah,
um, and so I'm a trained actor.
uh-huh.
I've done I've done all that, um, and then I worked as a children's entertainer for years, which is
Mm,
also actually quite a daunting thing, walking into a
right.
room and have to take the reins and engage 30 kids and for 2 hours.
Mm, wow.
Um, so I basically I had that going,
Mm,
but the first time I did stand up was the most nervous I think I've ever been.
really.
So I mean, I've done plenty of plays and that sort of thing, and never really. Obviously, I did get a bit of stage fright, but it was more like excitement.
Sure.
Um, Most of the time, it was it was the line between excitement and anxiety is
Mm,
quite a thin, isn't it? But there is
mm,
definitely there, the sort of positive versus negative
mm,
high tension states that you get. And I was
mm.
very nervous. Because I think also I had written it like I wasn't saying someone else's lines. It was my
Yeah.
own thing. I think you do. It is very personal when it doesn't go well, and I
Yeah.
think I sort of grasped a little bit of those stakes before going on. That like I'd
Mm,
worked quite hard on my first 5 minutes of
mm.
comedy.
Uh-huh.
I thought if this doesn't go well, then that's going to be really disappointing.
Mm. Yes, yes. I mean, you absolutely nailed it there. And the difference when you're performing as an actor, you're saying the lines that someone else has come up with, someone else has written, and of course they may be
Mm,
classic lines of Shakespeare, which everybody agrees, some large number of people agree that they're wonderful, and then you're judged on the your performance, but not on
yeah.
the content quite so much. But yeah, I
Mm,
mean, and that's I mean the appeal and the danger of doing stand up is that you are the director, the writer, that you are everything. And then so if people don't like it, they're this sort of it's funny because I mean I've also got very nervous doing stand up, and I think my I mean it's interesting now in that I mean I run certain nights, and particularly on the nights that I've been to really regularly, I've got almost no nerves at all there. But
yeah.
I think actually possibly it was the first time that I met you was at the
Blackout.
the blackout, and I
Yeah.
do find that to be an extraordinarily nerve-wracking
Yeah.
experience. So much so that I think I find it very difficult to be funny under those
Well,
circumstances. Go on.
there are so many uh, pieces to that 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 would make you nervous. I mean,
Mm,
it's a bigger crowd than normal. You're not in your own space, as you say.
mm,
You're in, and also you're in a sort of space where they you get the piss taken out of you.
mm.
Uh, the crowd are, they're not a supportive crowd a lot of the time,
No, it,
unless they like you. Um,
yeah, it's sort of. I mean, it's sort of the odds are more stacked against you. I think what's interesting though is that like so many comedians, or particularly on Stuart Goldsmith podcast, they often talk about this desire for the crowd to like you. I like when I try and take it apart. I don't know that I care if they like me or not. I just want them to be laughing. It's
yeah,
like
I want to work.
go on.
Yeah, sorry, no, you carry on. And
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was just like maybe that is that, but it's almost like I don't, and actually often I would love these people to carry on talking to me afterwards and like have chats or whatever. Often, you have this banter and, you have, all right, we'll talk afterwards, and then we don't like, and they'll run away. But yeah, but I'll bring it back to you because of course as the guest, but I was very impressed, you on the stage at, Up the Creek. I think you went on after me and you did very well and you survived the 5 minutes. And yeah, I was very impressed with your your stage presence and delivery of the material and so on. But yeah, I find there's some. I mean, what seems ridiculous to me is that I've been through, like I've had relatives die, and they've been through situations where why should I care less? How these particular audience out the creek react to me or whatever. But there's something about the situation that at some level in my body, I'm very, very nervous. I don't know, but I mean, how do you, I mean, obviously I guess the acting school and other things, children's entertainer, these all steel you towards, how do you cope with those very nerve-wracking, high intensity situations in comedy?
Um, I I don't really know. I think sometimes once I get on the stage, I'm kind of just I just sort of think, well, I'm here now.
Yeah.
Um, and sometimes it can be quite so like, sometimes I am sort of like gripped by nerves and I find I'm not very free and I'm not really,
Yeah.
especially for it'll be the first few minutes before I relax properly.
Mm.
But I think it's just focusing on like the next thing. Like I know, right, I've got the next joke to say,
Mm.
got the next bit to do,
Mm.
and I
Mm.
can just sort of move forward onto that. Especially if the worst thing happens, which is that you say something and nobody laughs.
Mm.
Um, I'm like, right, that's fine. Move on to the next thing because it can really throw you. I think when
Mm. Mm.
so I'm just trying to make sure I stay on topic for the question asked here because sometimes my brain just runs away.
That's right.
Um, what was the question again?
While you were talking about it, I was thinking about linking back to the other things that we've been talking about. I guess one is there's this question of how one copes with like a high pressure situation. I mean, you were describing your first gig and you felt very, very nervous, but you'd
Yeah,
prepared the material and you got up there and you went through the material. I
yeah,
guess I'm tempted to bring it back to, how did that first gig go? Presumably it went well enough that you wanted to do it again.
yeah. Well, the first gig was actually like uh, it went amazingly well,
Oh, wow.
and
Wonderful.
and I had the experience. A lot of people described this experience. I think Alan Carr said that he had this as well. You do your first gig and it goes amazingly well. You think, wow, that was absolutely brilliant. So you go up the second time,
Yes.
and it's really terribly shit.
Hmm.
And
Did you have that pattern? Was the second gig?
yeah, I had the same thing. It wasn't, there were still some laughs in the second one,
Yeah,
but it wasn't anything like the first night that I did it. Um, because I think the have you ever done G&B?
I have. Yes, yes.
So Kyle's very good at making a good show out of
Mm.
new people and
Mhm.
getting a good crowd going with,
Yes.
even despite the fact that most of the acts are very early on. And it was
Yeah.
just a great atmosphere.
Yeah.
And my set was okay, and the atmosphere of the room made it even better. And it
Yeah.
was just really fun. So even though I was nervous when I got on stage,
Mm.
as soon as I started laughing, I was like, this is the best thing in the whole world.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, So sometimes I have that to get me going through. If it is going well, I'll be like, this is the best thing in the whole world. So, I'm having fun. But if it's not, then yeah, it's just kind of like, right, on to the next joke, on to the
Yeah.
next thing. Just keep chipping away at this and see if we get somewhere.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Uh, yeah. And I mean, I guess there that sort of we'll maybe come back to it in terms of like this approach of how much sort of riffing one does versus how much sticking to the pre-prepared material
Mm,
and so on. But yeah, I mean, just to briefly go back to the up the creek thing, I've never got past the 2 minutes, and on some occasions I've done, like material that's worked very well in other places, and I've been on a kind of like doing, 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 I'm going through this. Other times I've tried to sort of wing it, and I think maybe I'm just not likable to that Greenwich crowd, or who
mm.
knows. But it's certainly what. Unlike other gigs now, which I don't really think about until the last minute. As soon as I sign up for the Up the Creek thing, like for like 2 days in advance, I've kind of like there's my heart is just beating faster. I don't know if you find that with the Gong shows particularly
Yeah, I
that's
mean, I've got it on Thursday this week, and I have already like, thought ahead to it and be like, oh, I'm doing that on Thursday.
mm, mm.
Because also it's, I don't know, it is so disappointing when something doesn't doesn't come out well. I just think what's I could have done something different with my evening and not felt really shit afterwards. But I think you maybe you just don't have your blackout set yet. You know, there's plenty of things that work, you know, that bring the
Mm.
house down somewhere else,
Yeah.
and they are a particular crowd, and it is a particular night, yeah,
Yeah, and I think it's also it's different from who you've got in night to night and so on. Yeah, I mean I'm it's interesting because I think it is a I often find that after these things it's very productive for me creatively. Like I will then I mean it is a quite an unpleasant experience when it doesn't go well, and which for me is pretty much all the time. Although sometimes I get more or less laughs in the first 2 minutes. Um, but it is kind of like a big emotional drain. And when I can go and get 10 minutes somewhere else on the same evening, I'm sort of de-incentivized, shall we say, to spend time there. I mean, yeah, I sort of I'm starting to feel now like I might give it another couple of years before I try those things again.
probably a
Yeah,
good plan. So, you
yeah.
know,
It's
set it a little
go
down the road. Yeah, put it a little way down the road and like work on it and come back to it. I think
yeah.
what I did the first time I went on, I got obliterated right at the 2 minutes. They were like, "Get off," and it was a very humbling experience. And I didn't go back for over a year and a half.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm sort of, I feel like, I'd rather focus on festivals at the moment and doing like 45 minutes and trying to, tell that sort of bigger story and so on.
Yeah,
But yeah, and then so amazing first gig. You didn't do a comedy course by the sound of it. I mean, that was my first gig was quite good, but it was a very, it was friends and family. I mean, I guess not so
what,
dissimilar
what,
from GMB,
how
but
did you get your start, and how long ago was it?
well, as I was actually saying in virtual reality last night, I was talking about the first. When I was 21 or two, I was trying. I ran a comedy night in Edinburgh, where I was at university there,
Yeah,
and I tried doing bits as the MC, and they just totally failed. And I just thought, this is impossible. I can never do this. And so then there was. I mean, I did a lot of. Subsequently, I did various things like improv and whatever. But as people on the podcast have heard about before, yeah, it's now about 4 years ago that I did the Amused Mooses course, and I'd sort of signed up for that partly because post COVID and my kids growing up, and I actually got a bit of space and time for myself, and work was right, and then yeah, so I hadn't really thought that it was necessarily going to involve some performance. I thought I was going to like spend 6 weeks kind of learning about comedy, and they were like, "Oh, you've got this showcase show at the end," and I was like, "Oh my God!" But then we did this, so we spent 6 weeks with Marcus Birdman was the professional comic running the thing, and we learned all about different stuff, putting the microphone in the right place. Every week we would have homework to try and generate material, and effectively, you kind of did your first 6 gigs, as it were, over the course of these 6 Sunday afternoons with a dozen other people, who were
mm,
there kind of as the audience. So, it's sort of
yeah,
a soft way in. And then by the end of that 6 weeks, you've had help preparing, a reasonable, you know, for the first time ever set. And then you perform that, and it was like sort of 40, 45 people. Actually, all of them wearing face masks because this was still the tail end of COVID. But yeah, and I did my first 5 and got a number of laughs in the places where I'd hoped there was, and I was like, wow, this is fantastic. And I was like, right. And I'm off, and then I was like busy doing as many open mics as I could for the following period. But I'm interested for you is so after doing that first one or two, was it then that's 3 years ago? You've just now been consistently gigging. You can't get enough of it. You love the ups and the downs and the
um, I'm one just before I continue, I would like to hear what it was like going from that into you know, the world of ordinary gigs that aren't part of a course. What was the
Well, I was very much that description of that amazing to the awful that you described. So the first ever gig that I did that was like an open mic was Comedy in Your Eye in Camden,
Oh,
and
right.
uh, and I did
So
the
hard
same.
to get on that.
Sorry, say again.
I find it really hard to get on that gig.
Yeah, I
You
think
just walk the
it's
course.
become increasingly hard. This is like 4 years ago.
All right.
But I think it was also yeah, it was 4 years ago. It was the second COVID Christmas, and I think there were people being ill and dropping out. Anyway, I managed to get in there, and I've never managed to get in since. But it's not really convenient for me on a Wednesday night. But yeah, and I went and did that, and I performed the same 5 that I'd done at the showcase show, and
Mm.
I don't think I got any laughs at all. I mean, there wasn't a lot of, there wasn't a huge number of people in the room on that particular occasion. What I
Yeah.
did, that if where I got laughs was basically pointing out, oh, you didn't think that was funny, and then all the comedians at the basically when I pointed out that I had failed with my joke,
Yeah.
the comedians at the back of the room all laughed, and so there was kind of like it was interesting. There was we've had him on the podcast, and I'm always pronouncing his name incorrectly. Oh gosh, I have this big list of all the previous people. It's oh no, it's Ollie Reardon. Ollie Reardon, who I don't know if you know, but he does very funny
Uh-huh.
religious stuff.
Yeah.
But he
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
actually there at that gig, and I mean, I was doing very off the wall, strange stuff that I was very different, I think, to what anybody else was doing. And he came up to me afterwards and he said, like, this is what these gigs should be for. You should be, it's good to try out new, crazy,
Yeah.
random stuff that people can't relate to. And if they don't relate to it, fine. That's what these gigs are for, he said. And so I kind of, even though that experience was kind of quite humbling after the first one, I was kind of like, oh, okay, this is I've leveled up in terms of difficulty here now. This is now a more complex puzzle to unlock, and
Yeah. Yeah.
went on from
I
there.
remember after that's such that you that those are the like the really the making moments of doing comedy is when
Mm.
you've found something really tough and you've had a really rubbish gig and
Mm.
someone comes up to you and says something to you.
Oh yeah.
Because after my second gig, the one that didn't go well,
Mm.
uh, you know Callum Mackenzie, don't you? Yeah,
Of course, yeah.
he saw my first gig and my second one, and he came up to me
Ah,
after that. Well done, that was a great first gig. And he came up to me after the second one, and he just had a very knowing look for me, you know,
right.
and a sort of well done for doing the one that went awfully after the one that went really well.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
absolutely brilliant. One that
that,
he's an inspiring man that we've had on the podcast, and of course I work closely with him at a couple of gigs that we run. But he's also in the child entertainment business. Did you know
yeah.
him through that as well?
No, I didn't know that he was in that. So I saw him when I was gigging early on. I used to see him all over the place.
Oh yeah.
And then I think he sort of basically we dropped out of the same gig circle. So I think he was doing more gigs that I wouldn't have gone to. Is
Mm.
because he was when I started, he was about a year in, I think,
Yes,
and I
yes.
remember thinking, "Wow, this guy is amazing," and I
Uh-huh.
still,
No, he's great.
um,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and so I sort of like I talked to him a bit early on, and then I sort of didn't see him for ages, and then I worked on a kid's birthday party
Yes.
where he was just one of the other entertainers who was working. I was like, oh my God, you do this as well.
Yeah, yeah. Yes.
Um,
Yeah,
so that
it's
was funny. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, and so, I mean, and I think, well, I think it's really interesting. I mean, I almost can't quite imagine. I mean, Callum, works clean most of the time, and I can see how many of his jokes might work with kids. I'd love to watch a documentary about the pair of you and how you're, dealing with these kids' activities or something. But so yeah, so the kids' entertainment stuff for you. I mean, presumably you were already telling some jokes as part of the kid entertainment activities, or you were dressed as a clown.
yeah.
How do you keep these kids entertained?
It's just with you. You get them. You have to get them sort of like interested in you at the start.
Hmm.
But this is what I find. You have to get them interested in you. And what I normally do is do something stupid or like say something ridiculous, and
Yeah.
then if they're of the right age. Um, so basically, the best age is sort of like late 4 year old up to sort of like six. So
Okay.
the age 5 or 6 is what you want for entertaining children,
Okay.
because they're of the right age where you can basically muck about and they'll find it so funny or so stupid they want to stop you doing it.
Okay.
Um, and that so like 6 year old girls, for example, if I say um, oh, what was it? Oh, they had some. This is just an example of how you get them on side. So there was this. They had a board up that said, you know, like Mimi and Joanna's birthday or something, and
Yes.
I was like, I'm just going to write my name on the board as well if that's all right, because so it could be my birthday too. And they were just like, no,
Yes. Yes.
we're not doing that. And I sort of just it's children don't have the same like they've got a much bigger tolerance for repeating jokes. So
Mm.
you can just continuously call back to some rubbish thing you did earlier, and and it gets the same reaction every time. And then the problem is that they'll start doing it as well, and you're like, that's not funny.
And
Sorry, I'm off a bit of a tangent there, but
no, but
yeah, you,
it's particularly interesting for me because I mean I have kids and there was a point at which they were 5 and 6 and we were doing things, a soft play and whatever. We never had. I don't think any. Maybe it's become more popular than it was. You know, when my kid is like 10 and 12 years ago that my kids were that age, but we never had. You know, I don't want. There was one time that was like a magician. We never had a child entertainer who was sort of like in the comedy style. I don't know if it's something that's become more popular recently or what it is.
I think that's my strength. You know, some people are very like I work with a few people who are very sort of like kind and um it's more like the women who can sort of like, you know, they can sit the child on their lap and they can, you know, you can get through to them that I can't do, I can't do that. I can't sit a child on my lap.
No,
Um
for legal reasons.
so yeah, for legal reasons, it just doesn't, you know, it doesn't come off right. Sure, most people would probably be like, that's fine. But
Yeah, but you're. Yeah.
it's a boundary
Yes.
that I'm not ready to cross. And so what I basically do is take the piss out of them
Mm.
and out of myself. Like I make it very clear that, you know,
Yeah.
I'll be the first guy to get everything wrong. You know, in all the games, I'll break the rules by accident,
Right. Right.
and so that's my shtick. Really, is just I found that that was I'm not like Mr. Outgoing, uh, full of social energy, and or like the, you know, very kind, uh, loving entertainer who's empathizing with all the children. Although I do, you know, I'm on their level. I do empathize with the children, but I can take the piss and, you know,
Yeah.
make it funny, and that's yeah. You got
Yeah.
to find your angle. That was my
Sure.
angle.
Yeah. No. No. Brilliant. And is it? I mean, I know. Like, I don't think giving anything away. Callum, this is part of. I mean, he's a full-time comedian, and the kids entertaining is a big part of that. Is that your? I mean, you're obviously on your way to super stellar, comedian starter. But are you still doing the kids entertaining during the day to get two pennies to rub together, or how is it?
That is, yeah. I mean, that's my job. I'm not anywhere near leaving my job anytime soon. Someone's just coming in to collect something at the moment.
That's okay. It makes it more real. It's yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it sort of grounds us.
It grounds us because we were fluttering away from the thing. So yeah, so you've got this, obviously, and it's a bit sort of kid silly. It's sort of a different kind of thing. It's still entertaining. But so then once you'd started doing the stand-up comedy in the evenings, was that was like, right, woof, I just want to do as many open mic gigs as I can and just do as much comedy as I can. Did you get the bug straight away?
Yeah, I think I did. I mean, well, did I get the bugs? I did. I did a lot of gigs for about for a few months. I'm trying to think, when was this? This was 2023. Uh, and then I went away. I went on tour with I did like the last sort of acting job that I did
Mm,
was in 2023. It was about 2.5 years ago now. I went on a like a school theatre tour in Europe around like the
mm.
Netherlands and Belgium.
Oh wow.
Um, so just like sort of the cold shit countries basically, and
Mm.
it was fun though. I had a lot of a good time. So I had a break for that. That was about 2 months where I didn't do any comedy. Then I came back and started up again
Mm.
and did bits here and there. I think I might have been doing like one or two gigs a week for a long while.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Then the next year, about a year on from that, I went on holiday and I just couldn't really be bothered for a long time. So I had about a 3 months break from comedy the next year.
Oh yeah.
So I was sort of like doing it sort of once or twice a week for about a year. Then it took a few months off, and then in about May of 2024, so last year,
Mm.
I booked a few more gigs after my break of not doing it for 3 months, and then I sort of haven't really stopped since then. So I've been
Mm.
trying to do at least three a week, but sometimes, as many as I can, like up to, up, I think I did six. I don't really like doing it on Sundays.
Mm.
That's Sundays that I don't.
Mm. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Um, so yes, I sort of did get the bug, but I I think I eased myself into the bug
Yeah.
quite sensibly, and now I am very much like, um, like pounding it, like nose to the grindstone, and have been for
Mm.
quite a while. Um,
Yeah, that's all. That brings us right up to date. Well, and maybe takes us into our second question, which is how is technology affecting your life and your comedy? And this is sort of, I am very interested in technology, but it's a thinly veiled subterfuge that I'm also really interested to hear about your comedic process. About and technology can be anything from pen and paper to the latest AI or whatever it happens to be. But it's technology is going bad. Did you find yourself using technology a lot in life and work and play?
um, I found myself recently getting into more of a um, yeah, it's more of a bad habit with like scrolling and looking at
Oh
my
yeah.
phone, picking it
Mm,
up every time I'm right, I'm not doing anything right now, so I'll go on my phone.
yeah.
Um, and just trying, and what I'm trying to remind myself of is that literally staring at the wall is as valuable or more valuable than
Mm,
looking at my phone, even if it doesn't immediately feel that way.
right. Yes.
Um, because then I find what's going on in my head is like, what if I'm missing something? What if there's a key piece of information in
Mm,
my phone right now that I'm not getting?
mm,
And that's sort of what it's designed to convince you of, isn't it?
yes.
Uh, so trying to just go, no, there's no key. Well, sometimes there is. Sometimes there's an email, that's
Mm,
like this brilliant thing has happened, and this is
mm,
what's happened. This is the next important part of your life. Because occasionally you do get an email like that, don't you?
yeah.
So, um, but I think it's quite sad to just be waiting around for that to happen, just going on your phone to waiting
Yeah.
for that.
Well, and
So I've been trying
oh,
to
go on.
not do that.
Trying
And
to.
I
Yeah, go on.
heard this is the relevant point I was meaning to get to,
Mm,
that there is a mode that your brain goes into
mm,
when you are just staring at the wall or like walking around, that is absolutely vital for creative thought and like higher
mm,
thinking, abstract thinking. And
mm-hmm,
basically, if
mm-hmm,
you immediately pick up a device
mm,
or something stimulating like television,
mm-hmm.
then it just destroys that uh that brain state. It just cancels it. It's like none of that work. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. No, I hear exactly
So,
what you're saying.
and I've been finding it really like I haven't come up. I feel like I haven't come up with any good new jokes for ages, but
Mm-hmm.
I've also getting into this bad phone habit. I thought, have I got it? Basically, is that my fault then? So I'm trying to ease up on the phone.
Well, very, very sensible. Well, your fault or the fault of a society that, basically, allows large corporations to extract money through advertising by sort of, what's the word, commoditizing people's attention.
Mm,
They've got, as I would say to my kids, it's like you think it's just, YouTube or whatever. They've got hundreds of thousands of engineers and data scientists all working out how to get your attention on it as much as possible.
mm,
I was, as you were talking, I was thinking about you know, like occasionally there is, I mean, exciting emails or this and the other. There's something about the unpredictable reward of it that's very like gambling. Like when I was 10 or 11, I got like kind of addicted to these fruit machines where you put in, at the time it was like 10p and
mm.
you do a little thing. And they're designed to have a reward of different sizes come at different sort of unpredictable states. And that
Yeah.
something about whatever human psychology or animal psychology is we find it's like ooh. And I mean, you mentioned scrolling on the phone. I mean, I very much have like stopped any scrolling stuff. But I still find myself completely addicted to looking for messages. Like it's like, oh,
Yeah.
has somebody sent me something on message? And then there's like five different messaging apps. But what are you, just out of interest? Is it Instagram you're scrolling on? What or the news
Yeah.
apps or it's
No,
Instagram?
it'd be Instagram, but also I'm the same as you. I'll be looking for messages. I know that there's no emails there because I don't have a notification, and I've read all the emails.
Right.
But I'm like, right, come on, there might be another email in there if I look. Yeah.
There's something very, I mean, I remember this, basically this back in, must be 1994 when I first had an email that was actually getting emails on it. This is, I moved to University of Edinburgh and I was doing masters, and I'd had an email before. There's just sort of just got started. And, but I remember like working on the computer in the computer labs at the university and just being like, oh, I've got to look at there was something there already, even before we had the scrolling and this, that, and the other, there was something addictive about the email. It was this like there might be something to read. It's a very, very strange
Yeah,
thing.
having that similar experience as a sort of like 7 or 8 year old when my parents allowed me and my friends to email each other for the first time on the
Right.
desktop computer in the dining room.
Mm,
I think
mm.
I hope someone emailed me today. And there used to be a button on the it used to say get mail,
Yes,
which
yes,
was like, refresh. Obviously everything refreshes automatically now, but
yes.
press get mail, like, I hope one comes in.
That was me. I was addicted to pressing that. It is a very strange thing. Well, and I love what you're saying about that, the importance of staring at the wall for creativity. Yeah, I think there's something about allowing the mind to be empty. Yeah, yeah. It's and but so what you're saying there about the jokes and so on. I mean, are you doing the usual thing? I mean, I guess these days it's sort of people have largely dropped using pencil and paper and pads and so on. There to take note. I mean, this is the thing: is that you might have been staring at the wall and had an idea, and you go to your phone to write down your idea in a note app, but then actually someone's messaged you and you're distracted and you forget what the idea is. I mean, how do you come up with the jokes, and how do you sort of collate them and corral them ready for a form to be said on stage?
Yeah, well, I do use pencil and paper. If I don't have that, like sometimes it's easier. I've got like a category of note in my phone
Yeah.
for stand up as well. Um, but I have a book that I'll write down good joke ideas in. Something I thought of and I
Okay.
thought funny. I'll write it down in the book, and then I've got another one which every day, normally before bed, I sit down and do at least 10 minutes of
Mhm.
writing whatever, whether
Oh
it's
yeah.
sometimes a bit stream of consciousness, sometimes it's like actual ideas that have come to me. Um, and so yeah, and then sometimes basically I'll circle anything that looks like it could be an idea,
Hmm.
and then sometimes I'll come back to that, and then sometimes jokes from the rough pad will make it into the big book.
Okay.
Um, I mean, the book is actually physically smaller than the rough pad,
Right.
but the big, metaphorically big book. Yeah,
Yeah. So you've got sort of a hierarchy of
yeah.
like things of with quality. Hopefully, the things that are of higher quality moving. Yeah. Interesting. Yes. I mean, it was Callum Mackenzie who talked about doing writing 10 jokes a day, which is something I've been trying to do, and I often it's just before going to bed, or I'm trying to like see if I can make 10 tortured sentences that could in a dark light be through a squint look like a bit of a joke. Yeah, yeah, good show. And it's, I mean, you on stage, you've got very strong persona. The contrast between the sort of the flowery, exciting sort of language that you use and the sort of deadpan delivery is by itself, it's very funny. But what I'm hearing you saying is that you've got kind of like a sort of a fairly carefully scripted set of jokes that you're going through. Kind of, I think it was Mariah Bowden talked about, she has her material, which basically she can go through, in her sleep, and almost she doesn't even have to think about what she's going to say because she's so practiced in saying those things, and then her mind can be kind of operating on a different level.
Mm.
Is that the same for you, or is it somewhere in between, off the cuff? And
It's somewhere in between, I think. I think I function best if I know exactly what I'm going to say,
mm,
because then I can slip something else in off the
mm,
cuff or think of something to say about the room or
yeah.
call back someone else's thing beforehand.
Mm,
Um, but but yeah, I think coming from acting, a big thing is you need to be you have to one of the sort of the rules of rehearsal is that you do all the work and then you get to forget about it afterwards. You do
hmm.
all the line learning and the drilling so that you can do it backwards and you can do it twice as fast and you can do it.
Right.
lying down, you can do it in gibberish, you can all of that stuff, and then you know it so well that you can literally forget that you're supposed to be doing it, and it can just come out of you, and you can play with it.
Mm, mm. Yes, yes. No, it makes sense. Yeah, and it's I sort of struggle with that because I get so I'm so intrigued and excited about the new things that I'm kind of like, "Oh, I don't want to say that old stuff again," and that's yeah,
That's a too, because the new things are imbued with a shiny energy that
Mm.
connects you to them and the audience to them. It's that in the room thing, isn't
Mm.
it?
Yeah, yes, I think there's that, and often as we've talked about, the sort of ironically the off the cuff in the moment thing can often get the biggest laugh.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think for me there's also kind of an immediacy of, like there's the stuff that was a joke that was about a thing that happened 3 years ago that is like, I'm I'm independently of the room. I'm just more excited about something an experience that I had 2 days ago than usually about something that I had three years
yeah,
ago.
yeah. Yeah. But I think what I'm saying is that that then imbues the new thing with the same energy as the
Right.
as the in the room thing, the off the cuff
Yeah.
thing. You have a relationship to it that the audience can detect.
Yes, yes. I think that's
Yeah.
well, that makes sense. Yes, I mean, I'm kind of like, at least for me, I'm trying to get to the point where, like, rather than sort of drill and kill, is that over a much longer time period, there are things that are patterns of things that I say, and I've kind of said them enough times spaced out that now I can re-say them without being completely sick of them. And if I can go on for long enough, then I'll sort of get a
Yeah.
collection of those things. And also that it's rather than like having memorized, because I used to do a lot of acting in university, and ultimately, I mean, I could memorize stuff, but I hate having to do that. And yeah, it's sort of, rather than having sort of like this fixed sequence that things have to go through. If I had, and I think some comedians, the much more experienced comedians, are in this. They've got a sort of a wealth of material, and rather than it being like, okay, I must, I'm going to a gig and I've got 10 minutes, I must do these things in this order. They've got a smorgasbord of good stuff that they can sort of
Mm.
pick and choose from in an order they choose. You know what I mean?
I have always found that the people who seem a lot more experienced, people are a lot more experienced and better at it, do seem to have that smorgasbord that they can
Mm.
just sort of like, yeah, pick and choose from. Um, they have bits they might be coming on and intending to do, but they, pick something else and do that, and yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, J. Yamaki, who was on the podcast, is a British guy based in Japan. He talks about, he often, he's preparing stuff in advance, but he's kind of like given up worrying about if the stuff he prepares gets said or not. He's basically like,
Mm.
so yeah, he's got, 8 things that, okay, these are things that, but then go into the gig and just, because there is something about, it's funny because you can have this great plan, can't you, to say A, B, C, and then you're in the moment and you just forget all about B for some reason.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah, and so yeah, I guess like, there's other areas in technology, but hey, we talk about them all the time. I mean, the people that have had the biggest impact on you is another thing. You've mentioned already, a number of influences. Is there anybody else you want to shout out as having had a big impact, important relationships in your life that have informed, the way you do your comedy, or just how you live your life?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, there's probably loads of people. Um, are you talking about sort of like literally anyone at all in the
Yeah,
world?
I mean, and it's a kind of, often in the course of, I mean, it's a funny question, this one, as I was saying to Freddie last week, is that part of the idea of comedians and technology, people and drugs, was that it was like, it's our technology voices, our people voices, and drug voices. It could be like, about relationships. I mean, a lot of other, but I'm a bit of a kind of like, I don't know if I want to pry into people's relationships, and it's become about, people who influence you, so it's an opportunity to shout out, like famous comedians who influenced you as you were going along and thought, oh, I mean, like for me, Dylan Moran, I just love the way he delivers his material.
Yeah.
Eddie Izzard, or Susie Izzard, as she's called now. but then also, one's relationships with family and friends. I mean, I had performances with my father of oh God, like as Hancock's Half Hour. We got like a book of that, and he and I performed. It's like Sid James and you probably, if this makes any sense at all, but one Christmas we were my father and I performing this 20-minute skit, comedy thing, and having the family all laughing. I don't think I've ever mentioned it to anybody. But yeah, I mean, it's sort of any and all people having any and all kind of impact on you, really. A bit too broad of a question. I don't know what podcasting really involves. It's just like chat, 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 chat. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah. Does anything come to mind?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned relationships. It- I'm, I'm basically, I'm like newly engaged,
Oh,
so I'm finding
congratulations.
the word fiance is a really annoying word. But my girlfriend has been extremely supportive. And I think sometimes people mention like, oh, my partner doesn't like me coming back late or whatever. I feel like I'm
Sure.
missing
Yeah.
out. And sometimes I do feel like, I'm you know, going to work in the day and then leaving in the evening, and there's no
Mm.
time to see the person I love. Um, but just the fact that she's like supported it and seen the importance of it and the
Mm.
why the whole thing has just I think been like unutterably helpful and brilliant.
No, it's lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm married, and I think my partner, she's very introverted, where I'm very extroverted, and so stand-up comedy is sort of like an anathema to her. Even sort of going and watching, I think some people are nervous about going to stand-up comedy because they're, oh God, the people, they might talk to me or what have you. But I think yeah, it's wonderful when your partner like sort of appreciates it and supports, like, yeah, I mean, I think I get a lot of support, and yeah, there's also that sort of conflict. Like, I've got the family, and now as I start to do more comedy nights, there are more nights where I'm perhaps not there with dinner for the family, and my kids are that much older, and and partly I've got a new job as well that's making it a bit more complicated.
Mm.
So yeah, finding that right balance so that you do spend the time with your loved ones, versus this sort of strange comedy addiction. It's like I can almost, I'm doing, if I throw in the VR gigs, I'm doing like 5 gigs a week, and the VR gigs allow me to not have to, I can be around, and it's don't have to
Mm.
travel so far. But if you're actually going to travel out to the physical gigs, then that all takes up time that you could be spending with your
Yeah.
family, and getting that balance right is tricky. It's I don't know what drives. I mean, can you put? I mean, did you already mention this? Are you able to put your finger on what it is that's so Moorish about doing stand up?
Yeah, it just feels great, doesn't it? When you sorry, I think I just accidentally changed the volume of my microphone.
That's
Is
okay.
it still
It does sound the same. It
okay, right, fine.
doesn't sound any different.
Yeah, I mean it's it's addictive because you one, it's an unpredictable reward, as you've mentioned earlier,
Mm,
about the fact
mm.
it is you you can practice all you want, and then you can do 2 gigs and one's amazing and the next one is trash with the same jokes.
Right, right,
And I think that because then you have to keep going back, you have to keep going back and getting the good thing again.
right.
And also it's creatively fulfilling, isn't it, to write something for a specific purpose, i.e., laughter,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then succeeds and fulfills that purpose, and you're like, I did it. I made a thing that was specifically for that, and that's what I
yeah.
got out of it. And that's yeah. I don't know if I was going to say that's art, but it's not. For a lot of people, art is about expressing something or picking something apart. But there's something more scientific about comedy, isn't there? You
Interesting.
want
Go
one
on.
reaction specifically. Like if
Mm,
you're when you're an actor, you're not trying to get one specific reaction unless you're
mm.
play. When you're doing a painting, you're not fishing for one specific. You don't necessarily want people to look at it and this is a crying painting, this is a smiling painting.
Mm,
Uh,
mm,
whereas comedy is they have to laugh, and if
mm.
they don't, then you've not done it.
Yeah, I'm still trying to convince my audiences I'm still doing it when they're not laughing. That's they take some convincing for that sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but I love what you're saying there. It's an interesting question. I mean, art or not, you're saying it's almost more scientific, and there's like, well, I think one of the things it has some of the same appeal actually that I find with programming, which is one of the joys about at least particularly modern programming, where is that you get immediate feedback.
Mm.
You put something into the computer and it works or it doesn't work. And again, there's some parallel there where you're creating something and then it either works for the purpose or it doesn't. And there's also a bit of a kind of I think I've forgotten the word that I was saying. What's it called? Yeah, unpredictable reward on that. In that it. So there is something about that there's so many other things. Like let's say that you're writing a novel. The time frame for getting feedback on it is just. I mean, I think
Yeah.
obviously some people love that, and that's an amazing art form in itself. But yeah, to be able to kind of come up with an idea and then go and try it on stage that evening or the next evening and so on, and like so whether it's good or it's bad or well that's interesting. It's all part of the puzzle. Yes, it's a fascinating addiction, isn't it? If only it could be available in sort of pill form, or or just the stroll to like get this audience together. Each you could crack that how to.
Wouldn't be quite as good if you didn't have to sink quite as much time into it, though. But
Yeah, maybe
I
so.
find if I'm at a gig where I get to leave after my set, like I'm increasingly doing more gigs where I get to turn up at my time and do my thing and then
Right,
leave.
right.
And there's something that's not quite as it doesn't quite have the same like
Mm.
like there's something about having to be there for 3 hours.
Yeah, no, well,
There
that's
might be a social aspect of like, fighting through the evening with your team.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think it's definitely. I mean, the times when I've sort of doubled up and I've done two gigs in the same evening and I've kind of run from one thing to another, I've found less enjoyable. Like I think, there's something about being there. I mean, personally, if the whole gig can be over in about an hour and a half, I don't really need to go on for like 3 hours like many of these G&B
Mm.
ones do. But
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But to be there for that, I mean, that's partly why I really enjoy emceeing is that then you're kind of like the glue for
Yeah.
the whole show, and you get to go on lots of times. And anyway, yeah, it's yeah, fascinating. Well, let's move on to our fourth question, which is that how do drugs affect your perception of reality? And of course, as I mentioned in the pre-show, and I mentioned in every episode, it's any substances. These days. I mean, I was saying to Freddie last week, it's just striking to me that basically back in my day, speed was an illegal drug, and procrastination was something that that was your personality type. And these days, you can get prescribed a kind of amphetamine
Mm.
to help you with your procrastination. But different people have talked about different things. Callum McKenzie loves his coffee. I'm trying to remember other people who've talked about their challenges with different. Laura Kelly talked about her challenges with alcohol. Do you find yourself reliant on any substances? Do any of them affect how you perceive the world?
Yeah, one which is cacao.
Oh yeah,
But
true.
calling it cacao makes it sound quite fancy because,
Yeah.
normally I'm eating very cheap um, dark chocolate.
Mm.
Uh, so where um, I used to do loads of stimulant drugs like speed and cocaine
Oh really?
and stuff like that. Yeah, and then I had to stop for the same reason that most people who have to stop those things have to stop, just because they become a problem.
Yeah.
But so then, I used to really enjoy coffee as well, coffee and
Mm.
tea. And then one time I had like half a cup of coffee, and I ended up having a panic attack.
Oh really?
Uh, and that was in like more. I was working from home that day. It
Mm.
was like lockdown times where drinking coffee and going out into the world and doing things is one thing. Drinking coffee
Yeah.
and sit is quite a different ball game. So I cut out caffeine for a long time, um, and then just started having it when I needed it. But then I started doing more work in schools, where I have to sort of get up at 5 a.m. to be there at the right
Oh,
time.
goodness.
So then I started needing it every day. But basically, what I've drilled down into is eating dark chocolate,
Right.
and that's to be a really that seems to work for my brain. I get to eat it, which is delicious,
Yes.
and then I get the sort of like fantastic stimulant effects, and it is a
Oh, you do.
slightly different buzz
Okay.
to the caffeine in coffee. It's different compounds that work.
Interesting. Yeah, no, and I do eat. I mean, I have Monday to Friday. I mean, I now have this sort of almost this sugar-free dark chocolate that I have with my decaf coffee in the morning. But it's like I sort of have to have that.
Yeah,
I don't know that if it has a stimulant effect, but it certainly has a calming effect on my d desire for chocolate. But
right,
yeah,
right.
with co coffee. I mean, I had been off caffeinated coffee for 3 years, and I was just experimenting in the last couple of weeks with kind of relaxing that rule, and no, I'm gonna have to
Yeah.
go back. So I was
Why? Why? What's the kicker for you?
I mean the reason to relax it was partly like hearing Eckhart Tolle talk about how he occasionally had a glass of wine or a cup of coffee and it was all right if you in moderation. It's my spiritual leader. Whereas so I ended up I think the problem is I can have a cup of coffee and there was like the two weekends ago where I was like, oh, actually this is fine. But then the kind of the need for the extra one in the afternoon and then kind of like a very intense, like and then the sort of crash afterwards. And I think it's just this is the thing: the coffee doesn't give you energy, right? It stimulates you, and you use up more energy, and then there's a crash. It could be the next day or what have you. And I just yeah, it's I have such trouble controlling. It seems generally it's easier for me if I just make it a blanket rule. None of this. Once I start to allow myself to have one, then I kind of it's a slippery slope. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get you.
Yeah.
I mean, I find it very difficult to control my chocolate habit. To
Oh,
be
do
honest
you?
with you, yeah.
Yeah.
But I need something like I need something. Uh, it used to be hard drugs, so it's good it's not that
Mm.
anymore. But
Yeah.
chocolate's a healthy way out. Sugary food as well is very difficult for me to not
Yeah.
engage.
I'm.
Um,
I mean, I managed to control. Like, I have somehow with and partly. I mean, part of me managing the caffeine withdrawal is having this very high quality decaffeinated coffee. But then I sort of
yeah.
have, I allow myself a very specific amount of the chocolate.
Mm.
And I do not allow myself to have any more of that. And somehow with the chocolate, that seems to be. I seem to be able to control that much more easily than I can with the caffeinated coffee.
I have been through periods of being in the habit of being extremely controlled, but it always ends. Um, what's the brand of chocolate, the sugar-free chocolate you're having, by the way?
It's called Wizards or something.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I
I've
think so.
seen
Yeah,
that in Portland.
yeah, it actually, yeah. I mean, this is a couple of years back. I have got diagnosed with some sort of like pre-diabetes markers or what have you, which of now that I switched
Yeah,
to these non-sugary things and reduced my other sugary intake, I'm back down into a normal area. But it was sort of
awesome.
that. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yes, health is wealth.
help it's and particularly as you get older you got to sort of manage all these things but I guess these it sounds like all the stimulants were sort of all about just kind of like giving you woof. It wasn't that so much affecting your perception of reality per se.
No, it was really about just feeling some motivation and purpose, I think,
Right, right.
and focus. Like I remember when I early on in my drugs career,
Yeah,
tried to do a joke about this on stage, where I used to
yeah.
do uh, loads of cocaine, and it didn't make me any more outgoing and sociable. I just spent ages writing ideas for verbatim theatre pieces, which is exactly it's true. That's yeah,
Yeah, amazing.
which yeah,
Yeah, well, it's actually both Freddie Hill and Renee Merlet, the last two guests on the podcast, have talked about how they had, um, before they were diagnosed with ADHD, they would,
Mm,
take coke with other folks, and who other folks would kind of get extroverted and whatever, and they would become very calm and very focused. And
yeah,
you start to see this. Are all comedians just people with diagnosed or undiagnosed ADHD things that should be
yeah,
you know could be coped with medication rather than open mic addictions? But I mean, who are we to
yeah, yeah.
question?
They said that the brain of the ADHD brain processes stimulant drugs differently. So
Yeah.
instead of being stimulants, they just sort of make you function normally. Um,
Mm.
but if we're talking about altering your perception of reality, I I think sometimes having too much caffeine, like if I have too much of the dark chocolate
Mm.
later on in the day,
Right.
I can I can get more nerves because it does make you still, jittery, and or
Yes.
it can make you more tense, which isn't good to go on stage tense. Everyone can feel it.
No, no, and I mean, I think often when I'm on stage, it seems like I've had a very, very large amount of caffeine or indeed Coke or what have you,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
like I definitely don't need those substances to be very, very intense on stage. So yeah, I mean, I did a VR comedy gig a week ago where I had 2 cups of coffee on that day, and it was just, I mean, yeah. I mean, I don't need that further acceleration can push me into a place where people just cannot understand what I am saying,
mm.
which may have its own comedic value, but it's not the
Did
real.
you? But I'm interested. Did you have that moment? When you've not had caffeine for ages and ages,
Yeah.
and you have like 1 cup of coffee, and you're
Mm.
like, "Fuck, I can't believe I used to have 5 of these."
Yes, yes, it was. Well, the funny
It's
thing,
very.
go on.
No, no, sorry. Yeah, you go. I was just saying that
Oh,
it's.
we've got into it like it was yeah yes I mean interestingly, given what I was saying about how I couldn't control them. I still wouldn't end up having five. I'd managed to get myself into a controlled thing of it would only be two of these black, Americanos, one in the morning and one after lunch. But
Right.
I had a cup. I think it was about like 2 weekends ago, and I was it was not so much like thinking, oh, well, I used to have loads of these, but it really picked me up that one morning. And
Oh,
it just sort of on that one morning, it was like, oh, this is just exactly what I needed, and it was just the right amount on that day, maybe.
yeah.
Although at the same time, that was me being tired from a week of work and comedy and not enough sleep. Is it's I think it's always dangerous to stimulate your body above the level that like it's sort of the body itself will make you feel tired because you need to rest. And
Mm,
anytime you're taking these substances, you're kind of further draining your reserves, really. And there's no escaping from that.
yeah. I think there is also an argument to be made that we have evolved with these stimulant plants, though, and
That's true.
there's evidence of their use, uh, going back millennia. So,
No, that's true. That's very true. And I think it's clear what the plants get out of it. They basically have they produce these things that are both stimulants and laxatives, and it's not particularly targeted at humans, but any animal species that then they want you to get up, and
yeah,
move and go and have a shit somewhere far away. It's basically it's their
yeah.
way of spreading the seeds and fertilizing them. So we're basically just being manipulated by the plants that we can blame. We
I
can
don't think I never thought about it that way before. Yeah, and if you feel great on the way there, then so much the better. But they're not that bothered about that, are they?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you could basically expire over there, and then you'd be even more fertilized. They've got for the plant's point of view. If you died on the place where you've had that big shit, then more the merrier, kind of
Mm.
thing. It's we're sliding into the last question. I feel like there was one thing that I kind of like a little tributary that I failed to go down before, and I was talking about your comedy. Um, as a sort of a trained actor, I guess you don't get bored of your material, like your material. Like, so in terms of, you've come up with your ideas, you've got your set of things that you're going to run through, and you do, roughly the same set of things with, little bits here and there for each gig. That's not a, it's not a grind for you to do that because you're acting trained. You're used to having a set of material that you will do out on stage. So that doesn't it's not really a challenge that you're always looking for new things.
No, it is a challenge, because that's one of the biggest challenges for a lot of actors is, let's say you do a run, some runs go for months or years, and you're doing the
Mm.
same thing every day. How do
Oh,
you keep it interesting and fresh?
yeah, totally.
Um, and I have that problem big time. I get bored very quickly of my stuff, but
Oh,
you've got to
right.
keep doing it because these jokes work. So part of the skill, I think, and part of
Mm.
what I'm trying to get to, part of the journey for me at the moment is is doing the jokes that I'm bored of, but trying to make them not boring,
Mm.
not not the because also there is a there's a when you're acting, you're responding in the moment, even though you're saying a pre-rehearsed line,
Mm.
there's something organic about the response that you're giving. It doesn't have to be exactly the same every time.
Yeah.
Um, with a joke, it doesn't have to be exactly the same every time, but you can't flip. It does sort of have. There's points you have to hit. There's a rhythm. You
Mm.
can't change it completely and it still be the same joke.
Mm.
You have to say it in a certain way for it to get the laugh. So then finding wiggle room is a different matter, essentially.
Yeah, yeah. When Freddie Hill was talking about that last week, with the a lot about how the timing and the sort of tone and the different things, which I think I haven't really, I don't know if I've worked out. I mean, I'm the other I've listened to famous comedians talking about doing the same show night after night and like, oh yeah, this place I have to come up with a number, and like on this night I just choose a different number. Like they find like these like little places to make random changes that have no impact on the and I've done like when I was acting at university, like I think the biggest run was like an entire month, and I absolutely I've got so little tolerance for the repetition of things. It just
Mm.
drives me absolutely nuts. But it's interesting. And have you your I guess is that you're doing the things you're trying to find a way to make them interesting for yourself by modulating the tone of the voice in other places, or what's your have you managed to find a trick that really works for you? It's still a work in progress.
No, it's still a work in progress, very much
Yeah,
so.
yeah, it's
I mean, with act outs, it's the acting. It's trying to deliver the line organically as a response to something, as if I was actually saying it.
yeah.
Um, so
But this
that's
go
I've
on.
got that, which is sort of easier than the other jokes.
Right. Act outs are somewhat easier because you're sort of putting yourself into it. I mean, it makes me think of something that I've heard on other podcasts, which is about that is, sometimes that, on the other comedian podcasts, they interview musicians and so on, what have you. And there's something about for the performance, it's like in order to perform the song well, you need to get back into the frame of mind and the feelings that you were having when you first wrote that song and the feelings it was about. And there's maybe some parallel thing with the sort of joke. If you've got a joke, based upon some experience that you had in some situation, is that if you can somehow re-inhabit that experience at that and the emotions that you were feeling, then it can sort of be real and fresh, like those lovely things that happen spontaneously in the room. And maybe that's the secret to the greats. Who knows? It's
Mm.
we continue. The quest continues. But final question: what does it all mean? This life, this universe, this everything, Joel. I mean, how do we make sense of this infinite universe, or possibly finite universe? We're still not sure what's going on, eh?
Mm. Just just don't bother, really.
Searching for meaning.
Uh, Searching for meaning. I mean, there is already so much meaning, we've already attached meaning to so many things. Um,
Mm,
if you think about them too hard, then obviously it goes away. But then there's, even that can be fun sometimes, but don't do that too much.
mm.
So I think my answer to this question boils down to just a series of cliches. Everything in moderation.
Right.
Uh, try and find the good in every day. Um, and do what makes you happy.
Brilliant. Yeah, yeah.
Uh, I mean, it's all at a very basic level. The whole of life and everything and all of it is all just tension and release, isn't it? And that's comedy as well. It's
Right.
all, the yin and the yang. You get you're having a rubbish week. You probably have a good week next week instead.
Mm.
You're having a good week. Well, bad news. And yeah, so it's just that, isn't it? It's like it's rubbish now, it'll be great later. It's great now, it'll be rubbish later. Um yeah, you've got plenty of food in the fridge today, but next week you're gonna have to go to the shop. I'm making myself laugh, but I hope there's meaning in this for anybody who listens.
Well, it's certainly meaning for me. I mean, I think that's it's a lovely lovely thought. Well, I kind of I want to connect it to something that you said earlier about the importance of staring at the wall for creativity. And I mean, there were echoes of that in what you were saying about, there's so much meaning already, and we live in a world in which there's so much stimulation, there's so much going on, and actually, why do we need to search constantly for more stimulation when let's just sort of I mean, again, I mentioned Eckhart Tolle because I listen to him a lot, but it's this idea of he talks similarly as you were there about you know that sometimes it's good and then there'll be challenge and then it'll be good and there's always everything is transitory. Things
Mm,
that you judge as good come along, things that you judge as bad. In some ways, if you can sort of step back from judging everything and trying to make everything in stimulating and meaningful and what have you, then perhaps you can lead a slightly calmer and more satisfying life with more creativity, which would be great. And
yeah.
I guess what we'd say to all the listeners is go out there and be like, take a leaf out of Joel's book and go and just attend some open mics. We could really do with some more audience
Please,
members in some of these
please
things.
have a watch because it's really sad sometimes. Yeah.
Goodness me, fantastic. Well, great talking to you, Joel. How can people, if they want to come and see your comedy, what should they do?
Um, Great question. Uh, Send me a message on Instagram. Um, I used to keep a list, a Google Doc of the gigs I was doing. Then I
Yeah,
was like, no one ever looks at it, so what's the point?
yeah, likewise.
Like, no, I feel like no one's going on my list and being like, right, okay, I'll go and see Joel do 5 minutes at Up the Creek next Thursday.
Yeah.
So, if you want to come and see me, just ask me where I'll be.
There you
I'm open to messages.
go. There we go. Brilliant. Yes,
It's
it's funny. Oh, go
V
on.
underscore J underscore walk, VJ walk, separated by underscores. That is my Instagram.
Yeah, brilliant, and we'll get that link in the show notes. It was just making me think of I'd been maintaining a list, and I did very occasionally. I had like one or two people did actually look at the list and come to things, but those days are long gone. Yeah, well, thanks everyone, and remember you can help support comedians of technology, people, and drugs by going to patreon.com/comedians on, where any level of support will help us to continue to produce this show. No one's given us any support yet, and we're not really expecting people to. I mean, maybe one day, when we've done 100 episodes or something, who knows? Why would is the cost of living crisis continues? I don't know. I don't follow the news. One way to support us would be to follow our Facebook group and comment or ask questions there or on Spotify. And we look forward to being in your ears again real soon. Last word to our fantastic guest, Joel Walker.
Uh, Plants were the original phones because they would make you eat them and go somewhere else and shit them out. And now phones are manipulating us. It's all connected.